Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah from the upcoming. So lovely to chat to you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Maybe you could just kick us off with a brief introduction then to The Virtuoso, which I believe is out this week in the UK.
It is, thanks. The Virtuoso came out of my previous picture that I directed called Good Day for It, which was a modern day Western kind of thriller. But this one, that was a ticking clock thriller where a guy shows up at the wrong place at the wrong time, and we know something's going to happen. And I always wondered what a different version of that in terms of that was a good man that did a bad thing. And so everybody thought he was bad his whole life and when he ran away. And I thought, what happens if the guy that walks into that diner is actually bad? You know, he even though we like him, he's a bad guy. And what could happen? So I went back to my co-writing partner, James Wolfe, who did Good Day for it with me because it was similar in theme and even location. We shot in the same places. And I started with that premise. I was like, what happens if this guy comes back to town after a long time, only he's a bad man who starts to turn good? That was the simple genesis of the idea. And I knew that I always wanted to stay within the film noir genre, which I'm a big fan of. And this is what happened.
Amazing. And, are there other films in that genre that you sort of take inspiration from, or things that you've watched from back in the past that we can see in a film like yours?
Sure, we borrow from all the good ones. That's what we do. But from the earliest stages, I was a big fan of the classic film noir. My dad let me stay up late when I was a kid, and we didn't have all these channels, and also it was tough. But when you got the Maltese Falcon and the Blue Dahlia and This Gun for Hire, these are great movies. And then later, I was talking to Tony, Sir Anthony, about this because we were big fans of Carol Reed and Michael Powell. And so The Third Man was clearly an influence here, as was, even Peeping Tom in a little bit. So all those kind of movies. And then in the modern era, I would have started with Blood Simple, which was the Coen brothers' first movie that really launched them. That and Memento, actually, just in the flashback. And finally, I would think maybe Drive with the Ryan Gosling picture that came out a few years ago. That was completely not the classic style of the film noir look. It wasn't dark shadows and all like the Virtuoso is, but it was really that same kind of tone. So those are pretty much my influences.
Mm. And to talk about the cast, I feel that even though he only in a supporting role in this film, first need to mention Anthony Hopkins, obviously coming off the back of his Oscar win. So, how did you cast him, and what does it mean to you to see him being recognized at that highest level? Just, coincidentally around this time as well.
Well, that was one time when, unfortunately, the COVID and the nature of the world, the timing turned out working because everything has been delayed. But no, when Anson Mount came on board first, he's the lead, and his agency, UTA, was very supportive of the script. And I knew that part was integral. And I knew that scene in the cemetery that between the virtuoso and the mentor, which I wrote, it wasn't in the original script, but in discussions with my executive producer, we thought there was something missing that separated this from a kind of just C-level action movie, which it is clearly not. It's a slow burn character thriller, really. And so I wrote that scene. It was 7 or 8 pages, and I'm like, oh my, I don't know who can I don't know who can do this. And I went to my covering agent there at UTA, and I was like, look, I don't have too much time. You guys like the script. Anybody there that might be interested, not in my wildest imagination thinking that Tony would come up on the list. And he called me back in a couple of days and said, it's been known that if it's good material and it's a good project, he might be interested. So I just really just took a shot, and 2 months went by until we got a call from Tony's agent saying he liked it and was interested. And then I don't, just to bond with people. I was sitting in my home by myself back in the East in Pennsylvania, where I now live mostly. And I just hung up the phone and I just looked around. I was twirling in circles going, who can I tell? And then, we had 2 conversations for an hour, and he just dissected that scene, really, that whole speech. I mean, to the point where he asked me if he could change to the, that respectful of material, but also that particular in how he likes to work. And 2 years later, then we missed the one window that he had to shoot. So I held out for 2 years to get him back. And it was just like he picked up to the first conversation. So just an honor, and a great guy. And I'm glad he won. He deserved it. Everybody, there's a lot of great performances. It's unfortunate where you can only pick one, but he surely, had a fantastic performance in The Father. So.
Yeah, and that scene really is a standout scene, and you can just see his talent come through, and just like in that one speech, kind of. Even I was just thinking the fact that he memorized that in a complete scene seemed quite amazing.
Well, that was just, I know we don't have that much time, but the day before was the only time I actually had some kind of rehearsal. So Anson and Tony and I went to that cemetery. They just wanted to get comfortable with it. And I, I'm fairly intimidated. But I'm the director, and I know what I want, and I'm gonna wait. But he was kind of going through lines, and he was stopping and starting, and also the producer of the movie. So I'm nervous, going, boy, I hope he has this, because they've all told me he's a words guy. He's spot on. But this is, he was 80, 81 at the time. And I don't remember, my PIN from my bank card right now. And so, but the next morning when he came out in character, he's like, how are you going to shoot this, Nick? And I said, I think 2 cameras wide and tight, and just let you go. And he's like, okay, let's go. And it just came. I think there were 2 takes, 2 cameras, 8 or 9 pages. So just amazing.
Yeah. And then just to kind of talk a bit more about the rest of the cast, Anson Mount, I think, a really interesting actor, and you kind of, I don't know what you were looking for specifically, but in his performance, it's this kind of veers between, almost kind of slightly robotic, with this kind, he's not even named, this assassin, and then you see like the twinkle in his eye. I almost wondered if he's got a bit of like the James Bond edge going on in some respects. And then, of course, people like Eddie Marsden and Abby Cornish. So, how did you land on all these different people for your cast?
Well, Anson came on first, but I had met Anson 10 years prior to this in New York on another project of mine, and which didn't shoot yet. That's how long it usually takes me to get him going. But I thought he was really talented. And when you meet him, you could tell he's educated and he's theater trained, which is always a priority for me to look for the theater trained actors. And he just got the script right away. He's like, there are only 2 or 3 scripts I've ever read from start to finish right away, and I knew what I wanted to do. And so that was the beginning. And so I had a little bit of a history with him, so I believed he could handle it. And I also, knew he was a leading man, good looks, right? He just, to me, he was focused on television. He had just come off Hell on Wheels at that time, which was his Western series. But I knew he could pull it off. And so it was tough, obviously. It's a tough role, but we talked about that transformation and the subtlety of it, because he perceived it to be robotic at first, devoid of feeling. But that's difficult when you're an actor, because you don't want to be perceived as a bad actor. But then once he makes the mistake and he meets the waitress, then that little germ of humanity starts to grow. And so he becomes virginal, actually, was the word. And I think that's best manifest at the counter scene between him and Abby, later in the movie when he goes back, because he's torn. You don't know if he's truly falling or truly becoming human, or he's just working her, which ultimately we find out is what everybody in the movie is doing. So that was then Abby was also at UTA at the time, and I really liked her work. I watched her in Ridley Scott's picture Goodyear was the first time I saw her, and I didn't realize she was Australian at the time. So then we brought her on board, and then Richard Brake is in the movie too, who was in Good Day for it. And Richard, I'm sure you guys know, he was born in Wales, but came to America in his teens and still is in London now. And his best friend is Eddie Marsan. And so he asked me if I'd be interested, because I had met him and Eddie a couple of years before that. And I was like, that's the best character actor in the world, I think, Eddie Marsan. I mean, from Ray Donovan to Sherlock Holmes to, I first saw him in Little Dorrit, a BBC show, where I was like, man, this is the same actor, just tremendous. So I was thrilled with all that. So yes, American makes a quintessential modern telling of Americana film noir, and I have two Welshmen, a Brit, and an Aussie. So that works perfectly, I think.
And I've only got a couple more minutes, but I do find it really interesting the way we don't always know where we're supposed to sit in relation to this main character, and obviously what's going on around him. So what do you hope that people will take away from watching the film, and how do you expect them to feel in relation to their main protagonist?
Well, the driving theme ultimately then, which went back to my original premise, was too often in television and too often in today's modern world, between video games and all the action stuff, right? Violence and true emotion are swept over. Like you kill 17 people in a game, and then the next morning you're having coffee talking about what you're doing tomorrow and all. And I've never felt that way. But two of my movies were plays, so really it's character. So I always wanted to deal harder with the feelings of guilt. Like, what happens when guilt and remorse really start to affect you? And really that's the through line for the picture and his character. But the underlying theme that I think everybody could relate to, which is buried in this, but it's actually a love story. I tell a lot of people this, they look at me like I'm joking, but no, it's a love. The mentor loves the virtuoso. The virtuoso loves the mentor to the best of their abilities, right? The waitress starts to genuinely love the virtuoso, which starts that whole conflict in the end of the second act. So to me, I think people should just sit back, put all their mechanical instruments away and know that they're going to go for a slow burn. Sorry, this is the team mascot, Rebel, here, in case anybody's wondering. Say hello to the UK. She was on the set, suffered through the bitter cold, so she gets to enjoy this. But I would say, yeah, slow burn, let the plot take you, but the characters drive you the most. That's really what I want everybody to get out of it.
And then, how does it feel to put this film out right now? Kind of, well, we hope towards the end of lockdown and movie theaters opening again. But obviously, we're not quite there yet. So what's it like to put a film out right this second?
I think the timing worked really well. It's clearly, in the old days, it probably would have been a fall movie because it wouldn't compete with the blockbusters but now it can't because they're not, most of them aren't out yet, right? But I think that hopefully everything's going to come back better. I mean, that's how I got in this business. My dad used to let me watch the movies. It was a big thing to give their kids 10 cents back then. I'm dating myself now, but on the Saturday, and send them off to the cinema for 4 hours on a double feature, right? So I think people around the world need to do that. We can see it. As much as there's all this strife now, people are still going out. I mean, here the box office has started, has doubled in the past 2 weeks, and that doesn't even include the streaming, which will hit there in the UK. But no, I think the timing is is good. I mean, it would have been nice to have a little separation between the Academy Awards and the release, just to give all of us time to process that a little bit more. But I mean, it worked out great. And so, yeah, hopefully everything will start to get better and better. And back in the fall, we'll be back to normal.
Mm. And can you quickly tell us what you might work on next? Have you already got something in the pipeline, or?
I do. Actually, the project I met Anson on years ago. It's it's another ensemble character piece called Nebraska Fish and Game, which is just a sweet movie about a group of people trying to find their way in life. And then I've got a suspense thriller that's actually called Winter Blood, and it's might be set over there in the UK. It's got a Scottish theme to it. So I love the shoot there. I mean, the acting is so great that, which is, as you can tell, all my all my films have somebody from the UK and Britain, because they're just so well trained, and it's just a privilege for me to direct anybody.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing all that with us, and can't wait to see your future projects as well. And best of luck with the release of this film.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Lovely to chat to you. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.